Okay, so this is verse 29, which is translated as, "Those who are misled by the modes of nature get attached to the works produced by them, but let no one who knows the whole unsettle the minds of the ignorant who know only a part." Shri Krishna said something important here which must be understood properly. The modes of nature are, as we've seen previously, goodness, passion and dullness. We saw earlier that the modes of nature come together and there is either action or a reaction. The departments of the modes of nature include sight, smell, taste and all those different senses that we looked at earlier. And those that are attached by these modes of nature get attached to them and to the works produced by them. And therefore a person becomes a slave to them. So let's say, for example, a person likes potato curry. This session's all about food, but let's say a person likes potato curry very much. The taste quality of potato curry and this person's tongue have an attraction, and therefore this led to an action. He ate the potato curry in such a way that he became attached to it. From that day onwards, he became a slave to potato curry, and then he remains attached to it. Unintelligent people keep being pulled by these modes of nature. And if someone is a slave to this, for example, a slave to a beautiful woman, then he becomes pulled and he becomes attached and he becomes a slave. So Guruji is saying here, don't be a slave. You know, some people are a slave to beautiful people, another person is a slave to wealth, another is a slave to power, or a slave to fame, a slave to praise, a slave to being applauded. So every person seems to be a slave to something. So we're actually creating this slavery for ourselves, and Guruji is saying not to become a slave or not to become attached to these things. Once you create this slavery, it's very difficult to come out of it. So what do we do about these people? Shri Krishna uses the word ignorant for these people. Shri Krishna uses the word akrut snanavit, which means someone that does not know the whole. Therefore, such people never have the full knowledge on any subject, and their actions and behaviors are always inauspicious. The inauspiciousness becomes a reason for their sorrows and for their sins, and they think, again, that they are the doers. They think that they are the people, that I am doing this, I am doing that. And because they think that they are the doers, the mind starts running everywhere, and they wish for fruits, and this continues to stay. These are the qualities of somebody who is akrut snanavit. Their attachment grows and bondages rise. When bondages rise, then their liberation is very far away. So when you see such a person, you immediately think that you're knowledgeable. You immediately go and tell the person about their faults, you tell them to try to get out of it, and you try to show them the right way. But Sri Krishna once again tells us not to do this. He says that nobody who knows the whole world should unsettle the minds of the ignorant who know only a part. And why is this? Why is it that we shouldn't try to unsettle people's minds? Shri Krishna is telling us not to pull out a person that's fallen into a hole. Basically, falling into a hole with your body is a completely different thing from falling into a hole with your mind. The ignorant person has fallen into a hole with his mind. If such a person is acting with attachment and you start talking to him about non-attachment and not being a slave and acting without desire, then he won't necessarily be able to understand you straight away, because he has faith in action and you're trying to give faith in knowledge. He will not understand this and his mind will get unsettled. So say, for example, you put a junior student straight into a master's class, you haven't necessarily done a good thing, because he won't understand the basic things that he was learning, and then yet you've put him in an advanced class. He's lost the chance to learn the basic things that he requires, and he won't understand the advanced things in the master's course either. He will learn nothing from both of the courses. In the majority of the cases, the consequence is that he will stop learning. Rather than pushing him to move to the master's class, what you should have told him is that he should pass his metrics or his GCSEs or his basics first before you let him then go on to college. Then slowly he'll develop. In the same way, when a person is drowning in attachment and you talk to him about acting without desire, then he won't understand you necessarily straight away. And even if he does, his mind will be unsettled. In the 20th century, there was a famous thinker by the name of J. Krishnamurti. Now, Guruji is saying this with all due respect, but J. Krishnamurti said that there was no need at all for scriptures. There was no need for God. There was no need for mantras, no need for prayers, no need for gurus. And he basically said that all the knowledge that we have is within ourselves, and that we are all knowledgeable. Therefore, we should always do what we want. Now, we've looked at this previously in other sessions, that information is what we gain from outside, but knowledge is what we have within our heart and within our minds. So that does have an aspect, an element of truth in it. However, J. Krishnamurti was a Samkhya theorist of the 20th century, and whilst what he said was correct in the aspect that I've said that, knowledge is within yourself, it's not true that you don't need anybody or you have no need and that you need to be completely alone. Because when Krishnamurti said this, he said this to the common people. The consequence of this was that, his whole life he kept saying, you don't need any scriptures, you don't need gurus, and people kept listening and repeating this, and in the end nobody developed. So we do need guidance, we do need an order in society, we do need development, and therefore we do need scriptures, we do need gurus, we do need guidance. In the end, why did no one develop? When climbing stairs, trying to get from the first step to the second step, you need steps. If you go from one step to another, you leave the previous step, and in the end, you've used all the steps to reach your destination. But, after that, you don't necessarily need those steps because you're already at your destination. If you're standing at the first step and you're saying that you don't need to climb the stairs, you'll never really reach your destination. And that was the mistake that he made. Sri Krishna understands this. If someone has reached a certain level in life, and then he tries to throw his ideals on himself, like say, for example, if he's at the top of the step, the recipient will never understand the worth of these ideals, and therefore never be able to reach that level. You have to slowly take them to this level. So again, it's echoing all the things that are in these verses that, act, by your actions, other people will watch and learn by seeing you and your example. And don't try to force other people to do things and to develop, because just by your development, slowly they'll develop, alongside you. In the majority of cases, when a person's been going down the wrong direction in life, and then they get hit or get a bad experience, only then will he decide to go down the right route. So in the villages of Gujarat, there's a really nice saying which says, "Varyo na vare, par aryo vare," which means, if you try to take someone in the right direction, it will not work. But if they get hit once or have one bad experience, then automatically they will go down the right route. He will become non-attached when he sees the poison in attachment. Sri Krishna said earlier that a knowledgeable person should practice what he preaches and show this in front of the ignorant person purely through his actions. When there is a lamp shining in our houses and there's darkness in the common people's houses, if you throw another lamp into their houses, it won't necessarily lead to light in their house. It will actually just cause a fire. But if the light in our house is always constantly shining, another person is sitting in darkness, they'll then see the light in your house or in our houses, and he will come round one time and see and ask, where is this light coming from? Then you can show him how you lighted, how you lit this lamp. Only then will he then in turn be able to light his own lamp. You can tell them that they have all the equipment to light the lamp, and they've got all the equipment, and there's cotton in one room, key in another, matches in another, and then you can tell him to collect all of these things together, and then there will be light in his house. He may have all the equipment, but let him come and ask you. Until then, create such a situation that he'll have to ask you this question. Don't throw the lamp in his house. This is what Sri Krishna is saying in this verse. We must be patient. And this is what the next verses will show. There is a way to give a message. It's not just by preaching at somebody and telling them and talking at them, but it's by acting through your own example. So Sri Krishna actually became a leader of a great number of people because he knew exactly how to preach. Practicing is the best way of preaching. Don't try to impose these ideals on people because it will unsettle their minds and you will not be able to fully understand. In fact, Shakespeare famously said, "Life is a tale told by an idiot full of fury and noise signifying nothing," because it's only the person that knows nothing that tries to continuously talk about life. That's quite an interesting sentence. When you become an ideal, then, basically you should be an instrument to make someone else's life beautiful. What do? Arjun's asking Sri Krishna this question at the beginning of Arjun actually asked Sri Krishna at the beginning of the 3rd chapter of the Gita about the one good thing, the one unique thing that will lead to his good. And Sri Krishna will answer that question in the next verse.